Let's jump to this story from Fox Business. Californians warned of possible rolling blackouts as state battles historic heat wave. Perhaps the collapse, for those that are just joining, we had the segment where this lady was saying if civil war happened, she wouldn't last a week. She would maybe last 2. No guns, no bunkers, no food. Perhaps it won't be a civil war they have to worry about. Perhaps it's just going to be rolling blackouts. I saw a video, I think it was out of Italy, where they're going to school and working by candlelight.
Yeah.
Because the energy costs are so high.
Crazy.
So,
well, and you're starting to see that even here in America, where people, affordability of just your basic utilities has gone up double, if not triple, in some areas. And I mean, this is impacting every single American. It's insane. And I'm going to defer to the energy expert here, but I mean, I put a lot of this on the fact that we have sustainable energy sources at our disposal under our feet. And they continue to go to unreliable renewables, which we saw Texas even try at one point with their, wind turbines. And they're now, regretting that decision. I mean, we have to get back to energy independence, but we can do that through the actual energy sources that are reliable energy sources like coal and gas and oil, the things that are under our feet.
Nuclear
as well, absolutely.
But look, in California, they can't. They've culted themselves into a corner. They've told everybody we can't do it because nuclear is bad and climate change. I'll tell you this right now. I don't care what your position is on climate change. California objectively screwed themselves energy-wise. Because when you come out and say carbon is bad and burning all this fossil fuels is making the climate worse, the response is, okay, nuclear is a good option, right? Totally green. And it's got an excellent energy return on energy invested. No. Nuclear is bad as well because nuclear is dirty.
3 Mile Island.
Chernobyl.
Yep.
That's what everyone just says with nuclear.
Fukushima.
Chernobyl.
and then the response is, okay,
Yeah.
go for wind, I guess. Good luck.
Yeah.
And now you get rolling. They're saying it's like a stage 2 emergency in California. They can't build nuclear because they campaigned on hating it.
Yeah.
They can't build new, fossil fuel plants. They campaigned on hating it. And they don't have the battery power for wind or solar. When Marjorie Taylor Greene criticized, I think it was solar power, saying that when the sun goes down, you lose the power. I like having the lights on at night. Everyone laughed. Liberals mocked her. They're like, oh, you're so dumb. Dude, large scale solar systems, there's not batteries for this. Solar works really, really well during the day when you have the energy, and then has to be supplemented at night with fossil fuels or nuclear.
Salt's kind of
But I'll defer to you, Daniel. You know better than I do.
Molten salt. You familiar with the molten salt reactors?
No, I mean, molten salt, blue hydrogen, there's lots of great things in theory that I think I would be fine seeing investors, not the government, I would find seeing them develop. And if they work, it's great. I welcome all technologies. But the problem is the electric grid is, for good or for ill, it is run by the state. Right? And if the state is in charge of giving you electricity, then the state has a responsibility to give you damn electricity, and the state is failing its job.
They don't even know what electricity is.
No, they have no idea.
No, hold on. Most people don't.
No.
And that's okay. But if you're coming out and talking about energy policy and you don't know anything about it, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fascinating to me. I was talking to someone a long time ago, and I said, do you know where electricity comes from? And they went, the wall.
Yeah, there you go.
And I said, yeah, but like where from? Like you plug it in the wall, it's there. And I was like, okay, there's like cables back there, right? And they're like, I guess.
Do you think it's by design?
Where does the electricity come from in that thing? And they're like, I don't know. They don't know. Now, to be fair.
Well, that's because they don't know the history of Westinghouse and all the rest. I mean.
But so the fascinating thing is, what they don't understand is that it's a flow, it's a circuit. It has to keep going. The reason they shut down parts is because it's overloaded and it can't complete a circuit. So you ask people, what the fascinating thing about energy is that it's all basically steam power, right? Even nuclear power, it's boiling water to create steam pressure to spin a turbine.
It's kinetic energy. Yeah.
Correct.
It's kinetic energy.
Large rotating magnets to create electrical current, which then the current flows through the grid. They don't understand why we can't have wind and solar be like our permanent solutions.
Yeah. And it's one of the great evils that the green movement does is that you take a coal power plant that creates 900 megawatts of coal power. You take a natural gas power plant, same idea. Nuclear plant, 4,000 megawatts of power, right? They will say, well, if we build 4,000 acres of solar, we'll get the same capacity. It's like, but there's a huge variable. That means it has to consistently shine the sun nonstop with no cloud cover, that is a variable.
massive acreages of underground batteries, which is insanely bad for the environment.
Well, and not to
Exactly.
mention, who does this actually benefit? This whole idea of the Green New Deal or these renewable energy sources only promotes China economics. I mean, they control 15 of the 16 rare mineral mines in the world. They are where we're going to get a lot of our solar, panels and all these different things, or the lithium that's necessary, especially as Joe Biden in the botched Afghan withdrawal just gave $1.2 trillion in lithium mines from Afghanistan to the Chinese. So the whole point is that why are we continuing to promote and benefit our adversarial nations and dependency upon them, as opposed to getting back to energy independence here in America and going back to an America First agenda, which is where we need to be as a nation?
If they were just honest,
Yeah.
I'd say okay. If they came out and said, "Oh yeah, we know 60 million people will die overnight when we enact this policy,"
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Well, at least they're telling you what they're doing, and if you vote for it, at least you know what you're voting for." But a lot of people who are listening to these insane policies don't know that they're voting for their way of life to be done.
Yeah.
So we saw this in Denver. People couldn't change their thermostats. You saw that one?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
They
22,000 people.
They opted in though.
Yes.
That's what they said. So here's how it goes. Because this is actually what happened.
It's going to happen more and more.
When you sign up for your electric company or whatever, they say, "Would you like to sign up for our Energy Saver program? It's $100 off your bill per year." They go, "Wow, $100 off per year? I'll sign up for Energy Saver." They don't read it. Then one day it's 99 degrees outside and the thermostat says Energy Saver mode activated and you can't change it. And they say, "Why can't I change my thermostat?" And they say, "Well, you opted in. Maybe you should opt out, but we gave you a cheap deal because you were willing to do this." So that's the bit that I did on Twitter, where I said,
Absolutely right. I saw that. You're 100% right.
it's 99 degrees. You go to set your thermostat, but you're locked out. Governor's orders. You declared an emergency. So you decide, you know what? I'll go take a drive. You go to your electric vehicle, but the screen says no charge available. Car wasn't charging. Sorry, governor's orders. So you decided to walk down to the park and just go and get some fresh air. But the checkpoint down there, the tweet was limited. But there's a guy saying, "Sir, if you want to walk past me, you've got to scan your QR code on your phone." And you're like, "I can't. My phone's dead. I can't use the electricity." "I'm sorry, sir, with no QR code." And then they tase you, because that's where the electricity goes. Then you go home, back to your pod, where you grab a bag of crickets to snack on and wait for the temperature to go down.
Yeah. I think that is the future.
You joke, but
That is the future.
If the Democrats and the liberals continue in the path that they're trying to, which is destroying us economically, politically, and militarily, that's actually a real life scenario that could occur.
Yeah.
Look at California
this
right
is
now, rolling
correct.
blackouts. Do you want to live
I
that way?
can say this with any more sincerity, and I know people can think I'm crazy. It is a huge mistake to buy any sort of smart thermostat, a Nest, any of those things. If you're like, I need to be able to control it with my phone, then have a kid and tell the kid go lower the thermostat.
Or-
That's why God invented children.
And
But
This is like the old days when you'd be like, "All right, I need to change the television
Yes.
channel." Go up there
Go
and
change
flip
the
it.
channel.
Yes.
I buy mechanical cars.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
because I have a Tesla and everybody's like asking me like, "You really bought one of those things? Like, why?" And I'm like, "Well, it's an electric car. I wanted to have it as an option." And they're like, "Yeah, but you realize we're getting close to the point where, like in California, they ordered people not to charge their cars.
it.
Still, I believe right now they can't
right.
charge their cars.
Nope.
Yeah.
So what do? You can't. Look, they have these cars. I think.
But again, though, this is where I go back to sustainability, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a Generac generator at home, and in both of our houses, we have a Generac generator
have
just
solar?
in case. I do have a solar backup just in case, but not on my roof. What I use it for is I've got these kind of lithium ion like storage that I can actually utilize solar to charge off of it, and it's for traveling. When my family goes camping or we go out for a sustained period of time, etc. But these are areas that I can, it tells me I have this much time I could run my refrigerator off of it. This many times I can charge a computer or a phone or etc. And obviously you can kind of do it to wherever you want. But my whole point is that I don't utilize that as my idea of a main source of energy. I utilize it as a backup source of energy, just in the event of a storm or things like this. So
I've called for whistleblowers. I'll do it again. The left, you have to admire their solidarity with each other, right? There aren't a lot of whistleblowers. There's no Alyssa Farah, whatever, the former Trump spokeswoman who's now on The View, who's just on a tirade about how much she hates Trump, most disloyal, Benedict Arnold, et cetera. But the left doesn't do that. But I will renew my call for a whistleblower. So I'd love to know what the governor mansion in California is right now. I'd love to know if Paul Pelosi is charging his electric Porsche. I'd love to know if Dianne Feinstein's house is literally set at 79, because that is the orders. And the answer is, of course, they're not. None of their offices are set at below 79. None of them have unnecessary lights.
But we saw the same thing, though, with Governor Whitmer, right? We saw it in Michigan whenever nobody's allowed to take their boats out, but yet her husband's allowed to. Again, this is that two-tiered elitist justice system that I talk about that I can't stand, that we have to break the mold on, where political elitists and celebrities can act with impunity and the rest of Americans basically get tossed under the bus.
But if you thought it was that angering that you were in lockdown and Nancy Pelosi was able to get her hair cut, or you were in lockdown and the governor of Michigan, Michelle Lujan Grisham, opened up a store for her personal shopping spree.
That's not what upsets me.
No, but if that upsets you, that hypocrisy, just wait until the energy.
You know what upsets me?
Hang on. Wait until the energy hypocrisy kicks in, that you are not allowed to use electricity today, but the governor's mansion is totally lit up. You are not allowed to charge your Tesla, but I can charge mine. Why? Well, because I'm the senior senator from California.
But this is the same idea.
That hypocrisy is going to create
hypocrisy,
the Civil
though,
War.
is exactly what frustrates me about politicians, because we actually will hold your feet over the fire if you're doing or committing insider trading, but yet we're allowing politicians, their wives, and their offices to buy, sell, and trade stocks that they know they're going to pass legislation on, they know they're going to directly manipulate. Why has that not been cut off by the left or the right? This isn't even a Republican versus Democrat or a socialist versus communist, or communist situation. This is literally just a right versus wrong, a good versus bad.
The left populists and the right populists agree on that point.
Yeah.
It's the establishment politicians who are like, no, you're not taking away our insider trading.
I did really well last year. My portfolio was fantastic, only because of my my top secret security clearance, and in the skiff we discussed
and the fact that I know what legislation is getting ready to pass. I mean, imagine deep diving into who bought Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson before they made this huge decision. Imagine looking at the ideas of this renewable energy and who's bought into Tesla and all the others. My point is that just like we need to stop a two-tiered justice system, we need to stop the insider trading and the fact that our politicians and our celebrities are able to act in a way that the rest of America doesn't, and we are the majority as Americans.
The funny thing about Pfizer and Moderna was that weird speech that Biden gave yesterday where he was screaming, "I beat Pharma! I beat Pharma!" And he's yelling, and you're like, beat Pharma? Have you seen their profits this year? Pfizer was like, please, Lord, beat me again. Beat me harder, Daddy. I beat Pharma. Oh my gosh, Moderna and Pfizer had a great
What did
beating.
he mean when he was saying that?
No one knows what does he ever mean?
What does Joe Biden mean?
Just
a general question. What does he mean?
And I was thinking on the way over, we're getting to the campaign season, that useless politicians, and that does not include you because you're not a politician.
I'm never going to be a politician.
But the useless politicians will start saying all these things like, I've stood up to special interests, and I've taken on the big guys, and I've fought for kids, and like all these vagaries. And that's what Joe Biden, his whole speech, I took on Pharma and I beat Pharma. What the hell does that mean? And no one will ask.
Let me know when you figure it out.
No one will ask.
You know who took on Pharma? Donald Trump. That's who took on Pharma. When you talk about not taking special interest groups, when you talk about taking on big pharma, when you talk about holding adversaries accountable, when you talk about proper foreign policy and a more America First agenda, you can get as mad as you want about his tweets, but no one did greater than President Donald Trump.
Can you really take on Pharma, though, if you haven't screamed it from a podium?
He just gave us...
With a weird red backdrop behind you?
He just gave us... He gave Pfizer, a blank check.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
But how is that doing good against Pharma? That's what Donald
come on,
Trump
he's lying. We get it.
Yeah. Oh, you're lying.
No, Biden.
No, I'm talking about, you said Donald Trump was the best at taking on big pharma, but he gave Pfizer a blank check during the pandemic.
He also didn't.
Well, he actually just helped to do the research for, the blank check, if anything, was on Operation Warp Speed, which is just trying to get a vaccination in play. But what I'm talking about is when he started actually holding the pharmaceutical companies accountable and saying that, why is it that all these other nations pay a half or a third of the price of America when we're one of the largest consumers? We need the lowest drug rates. We need the lowest drug prices. We need to, go after what pharma is doing by abusing their rights here in America. Just because we can afford to pay more doesn't mean that we should pay more. That's holding them accountable.
Didn't he open up competition for
100%
medicines coming from Canada?
Canada, correct.
Yeah. And for some reason,
and generic brands and off brands.
Right. I've got they hated him. They flipped out and they demanded that he be removed. And now you get big business Biden and his illicit dealings to come back in. It's remarkable.
10% for the big guy.
I've got to know about electricity before we move on to the next story, because we're talking about currency, and I think electricity is going to be a currency of the future.
Of
how you transport it, that's
energy
a question.
is everything.
Yeah, and electrical currency, it's an actual phrase. So, like you were saying, people don't know what electricity is, a lot of people. Why? That's by design, because we didn't teach kids in school how to make an electrical current. That's probably by design, too, because if you give people the power to create their own electricity, you lose control of them. So the government's in a position now where they're like, what do? Are we going to give people the power, or are we going to try and hold on to it as society falls around us? And if people did have the power and everyone in the world had equal power to the government, would it just be a constant state of evolution and fighting and destroying, and the strong man comes up with the technology? So like, is it good that people don't have that power?
We've all seen, on YouTube, perpetual motion. Yeah, all those videos where people build perpetual motion machines and generate free electricity. Like that proves it.
At face value, I'd love everyone has their own everyone has their own power generator. Everyone has infinite. But
wouldn't that be great?
It would be until the strong man's like, I'm going to use my power to destroy that guy and take his, so I have twice as much. Like, that's the history of humanity. Is the strong? So is the government doing the right thing by keeping people stupid and subservient? Would it be constant war if they didn't?
No, I can understand your point of saying if the government supplies the electricity, maybe we take away that potential for conflict between households or neighborhoods or whatever. And I can understand that. But then if we've given the government that power, then they also have that responsibility, and they're failing that responsibility. A great radio host who I'm friends with, and I go on a show a lot, of Jesse Kelly out of Houston, he was replying on a bunch of tweet threads saying, you don't get to ask me to reduce my electricity consumption, because your job is not to tell me how to live my life. Your job is to produce electricity. And if you're the governor of California, and it is a numbers game, California has to generate, I think it's something like 52,000 megawatts of electricity a day. If you don't produce that, then you're failing your people. And that's all the election matters about. You can talk about the election is about equity, it's about justice, it's about creating a more tolerant society for California, it's about homeless. All that is crap. So the government, the election in California should be based on the fact that as governor, you are responsible for a few things: crime, and boy, are you failing; electricity production, boy, are you failing; and Gavin Newsom will win re-election effortlessly, because that is also the two-tier system that we're dividing into. One last thing, just to finish, when California, as Tim said, they have to start to shut down segments of the grid to keep the overall sustainability. When they shut down areas, look who they shut down. It will not be Silicon Valley. It will not be Facebook's office. It will not be a Kardashian household or Malibu.
It'll be middle and low-income families.
Voiceless, powerless people who have useless Republicans representing them in Congress will get plunged into darkness. And they'll be like, this is unfair. But if you live in the Central Valley and you go 4 days without power, pray to God your congressman fights for you, but obviously your congressman is probably just going to be like, well, life sucks, guys, but I was in D.C.
I witnessed this personally during the drought in, I think it was like 2015. I went to Tulare County. Poor working families had no water. Golf courses did.
Yeah.
The city, the people with money, don't get me wrong, it's not like they were doing well. They were in a serious drought. They didn't have a lot of water, but they got the water they needed. And that's the reality of it. New York, when the power went out, what was the first neighborhood?
Brownsville, which is an all-black neighborhood in Brooklyn. Summer of 2021, last year, when they had to turn off a small percentage of the grid, and Bill de Blasio's administration, and that's Brownsville in East New York. And if you look at videos of that time, the residents there, poor black people, are standing outside because you can't be inside because the windows don't open in those housing units.
But isn't it funny that these are the exact same people who say that you owe me your vote, even though I put you always at the end of the line. Look. You're the one. This is why you talked about it earlier. At the end of the day, the Republican Party went from being the wine and cheese party to the beer and blue jeans party, and that happened under Donald Trump. That happened under President Trump.
And we
have to acknowledge that we now represent the interest of the people. We now represent the interest of the everyday blue collar modern day society. Because why? Most of us came from that, like myself. My grandfather was a welder. My grandmother was a beautician. They adopted me because I lived in a family where my mom and dad had substance and drug abuse issues and were in and out of prison my entire life. And guess what? That's why I fight so hard for the American people, because I am one of you.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.